Now that I've finished this clutch job, I'm gonna give you background. This master cylinder is a Wilwood master cylinder. It matches a brake pedal assembly that I have on the inside. And you'll notice off to the other side, behind this master brake cylinder, there's a location there that looks like it must have been where Jeep originally put the master cylinder for the manual transmission when they installed it. Now, you'll see that mine's much further towards the passenger side. I did that because of the bracket that I have on the inside. I made a template that matches up to the base of this master cylinder, and I moved it around here, and I situated it where it looked like when it went through the firewall, the pedal would best align. Now, if you had the factory mount, and I know there's also a gentleman out of New Mexico, I think, that sells a mount that he makes. And I've seen the factory stuff available on eBay, people selling it, and he has his. I went cheaper, went with this Wilwood. I think it's a pretty good setup. If you did that, you might want to drill it where the factory mounts are. I'll show you what this looks like from the inside too. I'm sorry I didn't get a lot of this when I was actually doing it. Here's what the pedals look like. You got the accelerator over here and the brake and the clutch. And the clutch would have been much farther over this way had I not put the master cylinder on the other side where it was at. So this is what I opted for, and I think it came out pretty good. There was also a plastic footrest right in here that I just unbolted and took that out. There was a bracket on the inside where the clutch pedal assembly went, where it mounted up to the firewall, and I had to cut part of that out so that the bracket would sit flush on the firewall from the cabin side. And that was kind of a pain. And that might be easier with the other bracket, the stock or the one that the gentleman makes from New Mexico. But this is what I did. I think it's going to work pretty good. So there's a bolt way up in here. And my transmission right now is up on a jack. If you let your jack down and let it tilt quite a bit, it's way easier to get to from underneath. I'm just going to tighten that up. Putting the starter in, I noticed that the original bell housing must have had more metal here. The starter goes in fine, fits, but this is way too long. I'm gonna have to get a shorter bolt. The other bolt goes right there, and that one's short too, so this wouldn't fit in either side. I'm gonna have to get a short one. This is the original crank position shaft sensor, and it just would not work. This one, it hit the flywheel going in there, and this one's round. This one's like weird shaped. So what I did was I got crankshaft position sensor out of a XJ, not out of one, I bought a new one for the same year of the Jeep, so that the plug for the sensor would fit. And now I'm just gonna put it up in here, hope that all works well. Notes from this side. This is the mount for the linkage for the four-wheel drive selector that Jeep made. I hate it. It's real complicated and stupid. I have a link that I bought off Amazon, real slick. It's just a direct link that goes from the selector lever to the transfer case. I'll show you that when we get to it. What I should have done here was just cut a round hole this shift lever fork, it just unbolts. And with that off, you could get the transmission up here real easy, and then just put it on from up top. Just put the fork back on. This is off of a CJ5. I just bought it off Amazon. When I got this transmission, it was out of a Dodge Dakota, and it had an inner boot and an outer boot. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put a little piece of metal across here where I shouldn't have cut out. Probably seal that up, drill some holes, put some self-tapping sheet metal screws in there, and do the same kind of to attach this boot here. Let's see what else. This is a mount from a 93 Jeep Grand Cherokee manual. It bolts up nicely to this transmission. However, I don't know if you can see that, this is my cross member, and this is the mount for an automatic transmission, and the cross member mount configuration is incompatible with my mount. So I bought off of eBay a 9395, not sure, Grand Cherokee manual cross member, and hopefully that all, I'm pretty sure it will, but hopefully that all just bolts up real nicely. We'll see. Now this is starting to get exciting. Huh. Usually these things slip on much easier. Huh. Is there a spline difference between a Dodge Dakota and a Jeep Grand Cherokee? I'm beginning to think there is. I'll have to count that up. Okay, this has got to work. Counted them up 23 on each. It's got to go in. I'll try this just one more time. There we go. That scared me for a minute. Okay. I'm just gonna finish bolting this up. Well, that's pretty close. We'll get it torqued up and see where we're at. Time to do the selector lever. This is like the one that I have on my other XJ. Not exactly the same thing. I bought this off of Amazon. It's just got bolts on it. On this side, bolts up to the selector lever for the transfer case. Then over here, this is cut out to fit on the transfer case, the selector there. So you unbolt that, take that off, put this on, and then you adjust it to the right size. This will work on more than one transfer case and get you through the whole selector range. The one worry I have is that with the setup that I got, the transmission is quite a bit forward towards the front of the vehicle, which brings the transfer case forward, which brings the transfer case a lot closer to the gear selector lever inside, and it makes it at a crazy angle. So instead of like this working back and forth, it's going to be like this working. So we'll see how this works. Okay, so a couple things here. These go to your that goes to the transmission. This is all the control modules inside. This is a speed sensor. I don't know why. I think that's what it is. But the transmission, the automatic, has an extra speed sensor on it inside the transmission. These, a little round plug with 3 wires. One of them is the neutral safety switch. So it has to be grounded out. And this grounds out with the switch that's in the transmission when it's in either park or neutral. And then the other two are for the backup lights. But I'm just gonna throw those out of the way for now. What we're working on right now is this is what connects from the linkage on the inside. And lessons learned, take this little plastic grommet out before you put the transmission and the driveline back in. It'll be much easier. Not exactly sure how I'm gonna get that out. I'm gonna have to figure this out. What I did was I got a pair of pliers, channel locks, and I pushed on the long side, on this side, and pushed it out and got it out. This thing is like a puzzle. I put it together about every single way I possibly could. Hopefully this way works.